Okay, welcome back. This week we're going to be covering Chapter 12 and Chapter 18. So Chapter 12 on page 360 in the Big Fat Book is all about printing. And it's kind of useful to understand the history behind some of this, because in the old days there were three distinct printing techniques. The original AT&T System 5 system, and then the Berkeley Standard Distribution had their own set of commands, and it was the wild, wild west for a while. And so finally, they decided to have like a peace treaty, and everybody got together and produced this thing called CUPS, the Common Unix Printing System. And so CUPS is taken over, so practically no one has the original old ones, because CUPS just took over the world, which is a good thing. All right, just saying. So, continuing, they talk about the parts of a print spooler. Now, you might think of a printer as a physical device that's, connected with a USB cable or something. That's not what we're talking about. That's not what the computer sees. The computer needs to have what's called a print spooler. And a spooler is what actually gets exposed to the users to be able to see. The users don't actually see the device, right? I mean, if I had a text document in Microsoft Word and I wanted to send it directly to the printer would probably say, "What the heck are you talking about? This is not formatted for an HP model 1234." Right? So there's got to be an awful lot of processing involved. So the thing we see is the print spooler. Now the print spooler is designed for multiple users. So if I fired up 5 or 6 print jobs, without a print spooler, I'm in the middle of printing a 10-page document, and then somebody else in the network fires up prints an email, and it just appears smack dab in the middle of my document. That's not going to work. So we need a way to stack these things up, to spool them. And so if there's multiple print jobs, even if there's only one person, I often, I light up a document and say print, light up another one and say print, light up another one and print. The printer hasn't even kicked in yet. So spooling is a very critical thing. So in our world, it collects and schedules print jobs. That makes sense. And typically the spooler is what the people say is their printer. Okay, my printer. When they say printer, they mean the print spooler, because that's the thing that they physically see. And then of course there's a bunch of utilities, and the utilities are things like that talk to the print spooler, and the job control interfaces, where typically in the Windows world, same thing in the Linux world, I can go in and change the priority of the print queue, or maybe I can move a print job from one device to another device, things of that nature. And then, of course, the back end, which is the honest-to-God real print driver, the device driver that actually talks to the device, which, of course, you typically have no permission on whatsoever, because you don't talk to the device driver directly. You always go through some sort of an application. Now, this could be like a generic print driver, or most likely it's going to be extraordinarily specific to the printer you have. Now, Linux has been around a while, and they keep up print drivers fairly well. So if you get a brand new print driver, you go to the store and buy a brand new printer, the likelihood of you having Linux drivers is actually pretty high, because somebody's had it and somebody's built a driver for it. And even if not, you can downgrade, so to speak, to a generic print driver that'll just print. Maybe it won't do all sorts of other fancy features like, collate and staple and do all the rest of the strange things with, graphics or printing on the back sides and that kind of stuff. But, so you want to use the most specific one. And then, of course, when doing it over the network, that's the fourth piece. So spooler, which is the thing everybody sees. The utilities for shutting down a printer or changing priorities, or taking something out of the queue. The back end, which is the device driver, and then the network pieces. So the network pieces, obviously, is when you have a network device, a spooler that runs over the network. So I can spool up a job. I have a very common scenario. If you have an office environment, let's say, imagine in your head a huge cube farm where you have a printer in the center location of this maze of cubes. What you would do is you'd probably have a single server, okay, that all it had on it was a print spooler, right? All it had is cups installed on it. And everyone talks to that one printer, and their jobs get printed out on that one printer. So you might have 100 people all sharing the same printer. So yes, it has to work over the network. Okay. So there are host-based printers, right? Host-based printers, which have a direct attach thing, like they're physically connected, like with a printer, a parallel port. Probably not anymore, because those things are hard to come by these days. But a USB cable, yeah, I can probably find printers with a USB cable coming at them. So they're directly connected. So therefore, if I had the print spooler on the PC that has the direct connection, I'm golden. Otherwise, I have to install something else there to be able to remotely send over to the machine that does have, right? So I don't have that machine. That's a machine in the center of the maze, but I'm over here in the corner of the cube farm. And so all I need is to be able to send the print spool over to that guy, and then that guy sends it over the USB cable. Cool. Okay. So let's do an install. So it's pretty straightforward, as you can probably imagine. I'm going to do a sudo, only if I get focus here. I'm going to do a sudo apt install cups. Pretty straightforward. Hey, would you like to continue? Yes, I'm just going to hit the return. And boom, 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 boom. It'll just take a second to get all this stuff. It contains an awful lot of stuff. Now, this cups itself doesn't necessarily contain all the drivers. And just like in the Windows world, when you install Windows, it doesn't install every single driver for every single printer known to man. That would be a waste of disk space, wouldn't it? So we're not actually installing print drivers at this point. All we're installing is the printing subsystem, the spooler part, the networking part, the utilities part, everything except for the actual print driver, okay? So it's a lot of stuff, but it ain't the print driver part. Shall I tell you a joke while this thing is running? Nah, I'm not going to do that. Looks like it's running along pretty quick. Well, this is about as much fun as watching paint dry. Okay, we finally made it. So one of the things you ought to do probably is to there's a configuration file, and we probably need to make a backup copy of that configuration file, because to tell you the truth, if you screw this thing up, you're probably going to be in a world of hurt. So I'm going to go to etc. Cups, and there should be a config file, a cups config. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a copy of that guy, and then I'm going to give write permission to me, because later on in this video, we're actually going to make some changes to the thing. Not right now, but later on. So I'm just going to copy it. So I'm just going to say cups sd config, and then I'm going to change it to something like, I don't know, how about cups sd config dot original. That makes sense? Hey, and now that I've typed this out, is this going to work? No. Because I have to use sudo, and I wasn't paying attention. Okay, sudo. Okay, cool. And now I'm going to change the permission to add write permission for other people. So I could, well, okay. I tell you what, let's just leave. No, I tell you what we're going to do. Instead of doing that, instead of changing the permissions on the real one, I'm going to remove write permission on the original one, so that the copy that we just made, so I could always be able to refer to it. So I'm going to do a sudo chmod, and I'm just going to say, you remember how you can just do like minuses? I can just like do a -w, right? So like -w on cups sd config original. Okay, cool. So now if I look at this, I should see that the copy I made is now protected from me accidentally messing it up. Okay, that's as far as we're going to get in that for right now. But one of the things we probably need to do is, after you do this, after you make changes, now we didn't make any changes, but let's just pretend we did, okay? Pretend that we just made some changes to this thing. The service doesn't automatically check to see if that changes have been made. You have to basically restart the service. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I mean, I'll admit it's a little silly because we didn't actually make any changes, but just bear with me. So I'm going to do the sudo, and then I'm going to use one of the commands that we haven't really talked too much about. Systemctl, that's part of CTL. That's part of, the system D thing. This will allow me to start and stop services. So all I basically need to say is I want to restart the cups.service. Okay, which actually did nothing because I didn't make any changes to my configuration file. But again, just pretend. All right, so one of the things you probably ought to do is add yourself into the printer admin role. There's a group called LP admin that just got created. Well, I don't know. To tell you the truth, I think it might have been there beforehand. I don't really remember. In fact, let's go find out. I'm just going to do a cat on etc. groups because I don't remember if it's singular. Okay, so yeah, LP admin was added just now. Cool. So yes, it was not there before. And LP admin doesn't have anybody in there. So I'm going to go in there and add now. You guys remember how to do this? It's going to be I'm going to use a user mod guy, right? Sudo. So I'm going to say user mod. I'm going to say -a, capital G means the kind of the group we're in, and LP admin, and then I'm going to put my name in here, which is Emmett Gray. Okay, cool. So if I do ID now, I should be able to see that I'm in the wow. I don't see it. I don't see me being in the LP admin. Okay, cool. Well, I'm there. Okay, cool. Can't really explain why that didn't work, but that's beside the point. So I've added myself to I'm now an administrator of over the printer. Now, here's the thing. What can an administrator do that non-administrators can't do? Well, a non-administrator can send a print job, and they may be able to delete their own print job. In other words, I printed something and I went, oh man, that's the wrong file. So the ordinary user should be able to go in there and kill a print job that they created. But if somebody calls up in a panic and says, oh my God, the printer's spitting out garbage, I think maybe somebody formatted something wrong and sent like a binary file or something to the printer. Can you stop that print job? Well, if they weren't the one that started it, only the LP admin guy could kill that job. Cool? All right. Kind of makes sense. Okay. So on page 361, they talk a little bit more about cups and how it's been designed to be compatible with the older ones. In the AT&T days, it was the print command was called LP for line printer. Okay, who got it? But in the Berkeley world, it was LPR, still line printer. And then there was an LPQ and a bunch of other things. And so Cups is designed to, if you type LP, well, actually we don't have a printer installed. We don't have a print driver, right? So if I tried to print something now, if I was to try to print, for example, LP, etc. group, I'm not exactly what it's going to say. Yeah, it basically comes up and says, yeah, you don't have you got Cups, but you don't have a print driver installed. I don't know what the heck to do. Okay, we're coming up on the 15-minute mark, so you know what happens.